Unsighted was one of those games I've had my eye on for a fair amount of time, just waiting for the right time to give it a try. That time finally came recently with a lighter game schedule and a desire to play some shorter games. What attracted me to Unsighted was the combination of action combat, puzzle aspects, and the story questions and mechanics around the limited resources and time you had. I saw enough similarities to a game I really enjoyed, Crosscode, and generally positive reception to the game, and that led to my decision to give it a try. Unsighted is an action Metroidvania developed by Brazilian developer Studio Pixelpunk as their first ever game. The developers cited Metroid and Zelda as strong inspirations for the overall game, and Pikmin for the central time mechanic. Oh, and Supergiant Games, which, considering my play history, means it's unsurprising Unsighted caught my eye. The game was published by Humble Games and released on Switch, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC on September 30th, 2021. Reviewers praised both the action combat and the tension created by the time constraint, leading to good overall review scores. User reviews have had similar positive ratings, and while no sales figures have been released, the positive word of mouth likely gives this game a long shelf life. The plot of Unsighted centers around Alma, an automaton built to help protect a group of automatons from the humans. The failure of that initial mission leaves Alma and the other automatons in dire straits, with the meteor containing the anima required for the automatons to maintain their sanity getting locked away from them. Once an automaton's anima runs out, they become unsighted and mindlessly attack anyone they come across. Alma must fight through these Unsighted to recover 5 meteor shards to access the area where the meteor has been sealed away. Each shard was given to a powerful automaton that have now gone unsighted themselves, and this will be an extremely tough task. Along with the difficulty of the task in front of her, Alma's friends and allies are also running out of time, some getting dangerously low in time left. Can Alma complete her mission in time to save them? Can Alma find out what happened to her past friends? These questions and more will be answered over your playtime, although some of the answers depend on how you play the game. The story is pretty bare bones, although its central conceit and how important it is to the overall gameplay helps build a lot of narrative tension the game wouldn't otherwise have. While you're introduced to quite a few characters, your interactions with them are fairly minimal. The characters are charming, which is great until you start seeing them run lower and lower on time, but I cannot say these are particularly deep characters. They are there for you to care enough about to want to save them, and in that sense, it is effective. There are also moments of memories from Alma's past that come back and add some context to how things came to be as they are. All of these work well and keep motivating you forward, and that's great because I think the gameplay works via the same principles. Every automaton has an hour count for when they will turn into Unsighted. Every minute in-game functions as an hour, so the countdown is constant and pressing. Many of the automatons start with several hundreds of hours, but others start with 100 at most. The way that you keep them sane as you complete your mission is through meteor dust, an item generally found in the chests around the map. The dust grants 24 hours more time and also increases your heart level, which can lead to some more character details and discounts or increases in stock at automatons' shops. This sparks a choice though, because everyone is ticking down. As you preserve the characters with the lowest hour counts, you then have to worry about when other characters join them in the low hour counts. Do you have enough meteor dust for everyone? And if not, then who do you prioritize? There are not strong gameplay reasons to choose one over the other. If an automaton goes unsighted, they are replaced in their role by someone else. That just leaves you and your story choices. Now, while this is a central part of the game and its premise, you can turn off the timers for all the automatons in Explorer mode. This mode leads to a very different experience, but I at least found it equally enjoyable. The developers do stress though that their intended experience does involve the race against the clock, but if that is not a game system you want to engage with, then they have provided a way for you to opt out of it. The game world is composed of several distinct areas, each with its own set of enemies, obstacles, puzzles, and environment. As with a lot of Metroidvanias, you have a choice of where to begin your journey, although the game does provide a recommended route at the beginning. There are certain areas though that are inaccessible until you receive certain items or abilities, but at least for the first few meteor shards, you can tackle it in any order. You can also return to previous areas after gaining new abilities and find new paths or treasures available to collect, if you have the time of course. This is partly why the time stop mode is called Explorer mode, and also why I think turning on that mode still works to allow for a fun experience, as you can now try and collect all the chests or explore all the areas of the map. The game offers two very distinct experiences, and both of them are fun in their own way. I think the game's areas have enough variety to make exploring around a fresh experience that challenges you in different ways. The puzzles in each area contain platforming challenges, thoughtful manipulation of surroundings, and some unique area mechanics, usually involving environmental obstacles. I found a lot of satisfaction figuring out new ways through environments and unlocking more and more each step of the way. There is the constant pressure of losing time from failing, but that is at least part of the appeal of the game. I will note that you should always keep an eye out for terminals, because these are where you can recharge, travel to other terminals, and update and expand your chip slots. Always good to find those early on in an area. In combat, Alma can use either swords or axes as melee weapons, swords being fast but lower damage, whereas axes are slower and deal significant damage. Alma is also given a range of guns, from a basic pew pew to some of the specialized guns that are also used to explore and move around, such as the shuriken. While this is an action game, as you prepare to fight your enemies, there is one button you will need to get very familiar with in this game: the parry button. By parrying an enemy, you can stagger them and retaliate with significant damage. With my upgraded axe, I could usually parry an attack from any common enemy, and my reprisal would down them in one blow. The key part though is pulling off the parry to begin with. Almost every enemy has an attack you can parry before, which they will signal by flashing red. Since these attacks are varied depending on the enemy, you need to make sure your timing is good, or else you may be in trouble. Thankfully, you do have a syringe of health that you can use to heal up, but once it's been used, you have to build it back up by killing more enemies. Just another thing to keep track of as you're dodging or parrying incoming attacks. If the parrying timing proves difficult, don't worry, you'll get plenty of chances to practice, which I sorely needed while playing. You need to be patient. Much more patient than I'm used to being in action combat games, but it is incredibly satisfying to pull off, so keep at it. There are several different enemies you will encounter, and the variety will keep you on your toes, especially when exploring a new area for the first time. Some areas even change enemies when day turns to night, so they keep you on your toes as you're playing. A satisfying experience once you've figured out the mechanics and enemy patterns, but the road to that destination is littered with Alma's corpse and frustration. But the good kind of frustration. The bosses take all the lessons you learn during your journey, including the unique environmental mechanics of the area they are the boss of, and bring it together for a tough fight. I think the boss design was extremely well done by the developers, striking that right balance between hard and unfair. I did find the bosses got easier for me over the course of the game, which is likely due to both my improvement as a player and the various upgrades you can get, but they never became easy. I still had to concentrate all the way to the very last hit, and they were never boring. It helps that the game gives you plenty of opportunities to gain a little edge with the two major equipable bonuses, chips and cogs. Using the game's currency, you can unlock chip slots and equip various chips. These chips offer boosts to stamina, melee weapon power, money collected from enemies, etc. Having your chips in place for the challenges ahead is crucial to victory. Cogs, on the other hand, are temporary boosts that you can use to increase your attack power, defend against damage, increase stamina, increase healing ability, and sometimes even fully revive you. Once a cog is expended though, it's gone. So you need to either find crafting recipes to allow you to make more, or purchase more from your home base. While the chips and cogs don't vastly change the gameplay, it can change your strategies in battle, or offer an additional challenge on future runs if you want to try and beat a boss without them, for instance. I think the gameplay overall was a good challenge that led to great satisfaction upon victory, and the game gave you enough to feel like you always had a chance, apart from that one encounter early on. The graphical style of Unsighted is consistently fun to look at. The environments are well thought out and displayed with a good variety of different areas you work your way through. The character designs have similar thought put into them, with the humanoid automatons having a lot of personality in their design, and the enemy and non-humanoid automatons only adding to that complexity. It is a stylized art style, but with plenty of details to make it feel alive and not cartoonish. Musically, the soundtrack fits the story and circumstances you're in tonally and enhances the atmosphere of the game. The sound design does likewise, with lots of satisfying noise from combat and outside of combat. In general, the information presentation works well, with signals of enemy attacks being commonplace and puzzles usually having clear directions. Unsighted reflects a coherent vision for what this game experience should be like and succeeds in various areas, from the obvious to the sometimes overlooked. It did take a little while for me to get into Unsighted, but the time I spent getting to know its systems and practicing parrying was rewarded with a fun experience. The game rewards you in different ways depending on how you go about playing, but its thoughtful design shines through regardless. If you are a fan of Metroidvanias, Unsighted is a must pick up. The developers did try and make this a game accessible and fun for pretty much anyone, so if it looks at all interesting to you, I recommend giving it a try. You could even bring a friend along for the local co-op. Before you go along to do that though, giving this video a like will help extend my channel's time in the good graces of the YouTube algorithm. Comments and shares are also helpful in that endeavor, and most of all, if you have not subscribed to my channel already, please hit the button and then you'll find out when I post again. As always, thank you for watching. Have a great day and happy gaming.